Welcome to Learn This Game, where you can learn about board games and how they are played. Today, we'll be looking at Warfighter World War II Pacific Edition. The Pacific Edition is a standalone sequel to the original core game Warfighter World War II, which is based in the European theater. Learn This Game has a video of the European core game which explains the Warfighter system and has a tutorial playthrough of a complete mission. If you would like to see a complete playthrough, please click on the link in the description to see the video. In this video, we will not be repeating setup and gameplay since these steps are covered in detail in the video on the original European core set. The basic gameplay including combat and the turn sequence are the same in both core sets. Instead, there will be a general description and overview of the specific edition. We'll mainly be focusing on the additional game components and rules not covered in the European core game. Explanations of the following assumes you are familiar with the basic gameplay. We'll review jungle and reference cards, new counters, environmental checks for the player turn, campaign sheets for playing historical battles, and related expansions for the Pacific Theater. And if you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also leave a comment to share your experience with the game, or let us know what game you'd like to see reviewed. Warfighter World War II Pacific Edition was published by DVG in 2019 and designed by Dan Versen. In this tactical combat card game, you will build and lead a team of soldiers to complete missions during World War II in the Pacific. An app is not required and there is no app assistance. The game is recommended for ages 14 and up. The difficulty level is moderate and each mission averages 30 to 90 minutes to play. The game is designed for 1 to 6 players who play cooperatively on the same squad. Since one player can play every soldier, this game is easily played solo and requires no special rules for solo play. Warfighter World War II Pacific is part of a series of standalone games that can be played separately or combined. As stated, the original core game is set in Europe. There are also 2 more standalone sequels pending publication. These are based in the Mediterranean and North Africa theaters. There are dozens of expansions available for the World War II series. Most expansions consist of a deck of 56 cards, while double-deck expansions have 112 cards. For the Pacific Theater, there are 2 expansions specifically designed for Japan, and there are expansions for specific battles such as Iwo Jima and Tarawa. You can also buy a number of accessories such as neoprene mats, metal counters, and miniatures. The Warfighter series also includes games from different eras, including the original Warfighter game which focuses on modern Special Forces operations. DVG has indicated that they also intend to publish fantasy and science fiction themes within the series as well. A link to the publisher is in the description. Now that you've seen a brief introduction to the game, let's get into the game itself. This is a card-driven military combat game using a board, counters, and dice. Traditional maps are not used. Thematically, this game covers squad-level tactical combat in the Pacific during World War II. The Europe-based game gives you American soldiers to fight against hostile Germans, while this Pacific Edition allows you to fight as US Marines against Japanese hostiles. Now let's review the components and rules not covered in the original European core game. The complete component list for the Pacific Edition includes 390 cards, 9 campaign sheets, 5 counter sheets, 4 dice including 3 10-sided dice and 1 6-sided die, and a universal rulebook that is meant for all versions of the Warfighter system. The tactical display is identical to the original one in the European core box, except for purely cosmetic changes to the background and card placement graphics. Many of the counters used are the same as well. However, there are some new counters found in the Pacific Edition. The Pacific core box includes the original standard soldier ID counters, but also included are 3 different ID types to differentiate among player, non-player soldier, and squad soldiers. There are also squad counters used in the campaigns provided in the Pacific box. There are also additional counters to be used with the campaign sheets. Also included are counters for fighting the undead. You will need to purchase separate expansions to use these counters. There are also 2 reference cards to assist with unarmed combat and shadow attacks during hand-to-hand combat. Instead of US soldiers, the Pacific core box contains US Marines. These are denoted by the Marine insignia on the front and back of the soldier cards. The Japanese hostile cards are separated into frontline and elite units, like the German units in the European core box. Many cards in the Warfighter system are interchangeable. However, objective, mission, and location cards labeled Jungle must be used when the jungle environment is required. Many of the jungle location cards in the Pacific Edition have the environment keyword. This means that at the beginning of the soldier turn, the player must complete an environment check by rolling for environment. The environment keyword first appeared in the World War II Russia expansions. Soldiers in this location must endure particularly harsh environmental conditions. To overcome the environment, each soldier in the location must roll the noted value or higher on a 10-sided die at the start of the soldier turn. If a soldier fails the environment check, he must do one of the following: discard a hardy counter if he has one, suffer a wound, or suffer a suppress result. Due to mission, location, and event instructions, it is possible for a location to have more than one environmental effect in play at one time. When this happens, you must roll for each environmental effect separately. Soldiers begin with 0 hardy counters unless otherwise noted on their cards. Additional hardy counters can be gained through service record cards, equipment cards, and skill cards. Once allocated, you cannot transfer hardy counters between soldiers. The last new element we'll cover is campaigns. There are 9 campaign sheets included in the Pacific core game. One campaign is a series of linked missions that take place in a historical setting. The campaign sheet is placed next to the tactical display during gameplay. 7 of the campaigns are set in the Pacific. However, there are 2 campaigns that are set in Europe and are intended to be used with the European core set. These 2 are Dunkirk 1940 and Market Garden Defense 1945. We'll be looking more closely at the Wake Island Invasion 1941 set in the Pacific. Campaigns will be designated either offensive or defensive. We will look at each type. First, we'll look at the offensive campaign sheet for the Wake Island Invasion. The top left provides some historical notes and indicates if the campaign is offensive or defensive. The top right is the victory chart, which shows how well you did based on the number of objectives completed. The next area is the campaign map. The arrow-headed lines show the direction of travel between missions. The next item shows which nation you'll be playing as and the hostile nation you'll be playing against. In this campaign, you'll be playing as the Japanese against hostile American forces. Next, the region is listed, which in this case will be jungle, so we'll need to use the mission, location, and objective cards marked jungle. This is how long the campaign will last. In this case, 5 weeks. The next item shows which expansions will be necessary for this campaign. Not all campaigns require expansions, but this one will require expansions 14 and 15, which provide the necessary additional cards, including United States hostile cards. The next section shows the starting location cards needed for this campaign. Warm Jungle is an example of a location card needed. Listed next are the objective cards needed for this campaign. The objective cards, such as the shore installation, will match the box locations on the campaign map. The last section lists any special rules and parameters for this campaign. At the beginning of the campaign, you purchase your soldiers, skills, and gear using the campaign sheet's starting resource point limit. Assembling your soldiers and conducting missions are covered in detail in Learn This Game's video on the European core game. You then divide your soldiers into 1 or more squads. Each squad is assigned a squad counter. Each squad will perform 1 mission per week. Enemy-held counters are then placed in all of the map squares. We then place our squad counters in the squares marked Start. In this case, only 1 square is a starting square. There is a limit of 1 squad per starting square. We will then fill out the campaign log sheet. You can use more than 1 sheet if you have more than 2 squads. The log sheet will help you keep track of individual soldiers, resource points, and how many weeks have passed. At the start of each week, you will start conducting missions for the current objectives square. At the end of each week, if the campaign is not completed, you'll remove all experience points from soldiers, heal all wounds suffered during the mission, regain ammo, and repurchase expendables such as grenades if desired. We then update the campaign log and start the next week. At the end of the last week, we'll consult the victory chart on the campaign sheet to see how we did based on the number of objectives completed. In defensive campaigns, your goal will be to escape. Your goal in every defensive campaign is to move backward through location cards to enter the mission card. These missions do not use objective cards. Unlike the victory chart used in offensive campaigns, in defensive campaigns you will add the resource point values of your surviving soldiers, skills, and gear, and compare your total to the victory chart to determine your level of success. As you can see, the Pacific sequel not only adds additional soldiers, gear, and skills, but also introduces the new element of campaigns, including those for the original European core game. This concludes this review of Warfighter World War II Pacific Edition. Look for more Learn This Game videos as we explore expansions and sequels for this series. Visit us at these sites and don't forget to leave a comment to share your experience with the game or to let us know what games you'd like to see reviewed. And if you'd like to experience something more exciting than contracting malaria in far-off jungles, stick around for our disclaimer. Coming up next.